Okay. I don't see Bruce and Dot.
I'm trying to let him in. Hold on. They're
Okay, Matthew, maybe you want to restart.
no, he's okay. They're
Okay.
manifest.
Well, I'm not ready.
There they. Oh wow.
All right.
Well, I was afraid I was going to forget, so I started early.
Okay.
Brad is not here either.
No,
No.
I did not hear from Brad, so that I can't speak for that.
Yeah, but where Brad is, it's still 7 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a poem by Ellen Bass, and it comes from a collection called The Poetry of Impermanence, Mindfulness and Joy by John Brehm. And it's got an tattooed elephant doing a headstand. I don't know if y'all can see that, doing a headstand on teacups.
That's cool.
Statement about the human situation. And this does not relate to our theme, but it was so poignant that I kept crying through it. It took me forever to get through it. So I thought I would share it to you. There's so much that goes on that hardens us. And there's one of the biggest things that we face, and why this series, Linnell's series on Summer of Loving Kindness, is so important, and why your compassion part of your meditation is so important, is because our hearts harden. It was the number one sin in the Old Testament, was hardening your heart against the world. And when you think about it, we always hear that ethically instead of spiritually. Because if you harden your heart, then you can't take in love from the world, and you're not going to feel loving towards the world. So when couples come in and say, I don't feel like I love her anymore, I don't feel like she loves me anymore, I know immediately that it's resentments that build up over time. So we need these reminders to soften. And this poem for me worked beautifully. I hope it does the same for you. What if you knew you'd be the last person to touch someone? If you were taking tickets, for example, at the theater, tearing them, giving them back the ragged stubs, you might take care to touch that palm, to brush your fingertips along the lifeline's crease. When a man pulls his wheeled suitcase too slowly through the airport, when the car in front of me doesn't signal, when the clerk at the pharmacy won't say thank you, I don't remember they're going to die. A friend told me she'd been with her aunt. They just had lunch, and the waiter, a young gay man with plum black eyes, joked as he served the coffee, kissed her aunt's powdered cheek when they left. Then they walked half a block, and her aunt dropped dead on the sidewalk. How close does the dragon's spume have to come? How wide does the crack in heaven have to split? What would people look like if we could see them as they are, soaked in honey, stung and swollen, reckless and pinned against time? I love that line.
And use time.
If we could only see ourselves as we are, soaked in honey, stung and swollen, reckless and pinned against time. Man, phew.
I'm going to steal that one.
Okay. This is how our relationship works. So
I have the speaker on
Okay.
this morning, so we're going to try
Try
it
and get a
out
little fuller sound for you.
by magnifying the sound and just see if that works. And this is lesson 3 from the Sharon Salzberg series on equanimity. Okay. So let me see if I can get the sound worked out right.
Lesson 3, Mindfulness Meditation of Pleasant, Unpleasant, Neutral.
Does that sound okay?
Welcome back. For today's teaching, let's experiment with the concept of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings with a guided meditation. As you listen to the audio recording when I become silent, that is your signal to put into practice the guidance that I've just suggested. To begin with, you can sit comfortably or lie down, eyes open or closed. Take a few breaths and relax. Now bring your attention to the most predominant sensation you feel in your body. You don't have to name these sensations, but feel them. Can you feel the direct sensations you're actually experiencing? Notice pressure, vibration, warmth, coolness. You don't have to name these things, but feel them. Watch the sensations change. Notice that moving into the world of direct sensations brings us to the world of seeing constant change. Notice how everything is constantly arising and passing away, shifting and turning. If an unpleasant sensation arises, Practice being with it just in the present moment. Notice how the mind may quickly project it into the future. What's it going to feel like tomorrow? What's it going to feel like next month? Are we with it just in the present moment? Or are we adding an interpretation, a judgment, a self-image? I'm bad, I'm weak, I'm wrong, I'm failing. Is the rest of the body tightening up to reject it, thereby adding stress and tension to unpleasant sensation? With pleasant sensation as well, can we be with it and enjoy it just in this moment? Or are we anxious about the possibility it may leave? We may lose it. Are we comparing it to our idea of what actually should be happening right now, our expectation? And if it's a neutral sensation, are we kind of oblivious to it, disconnected from it, half asleep, because it's not strikingly pleasant or unpleasant? If we notice any of these reactions, judging, interpreting, projecting into the future, comparing, we can gently let go and return our attention to the actual sensation in this moment. Whether it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, see if you can notice the distinct sensations. If it's painful, maybe it's actually moments of twisting, moments of burning, moments of pressure, moments of stabbing. None of these may feel good, but if we are watching burning, twisting, stabbing, rather than a seemingly monolithic entity of pain, we're watching change. And then we're watching life itself, and pain becomes an alive system. So too with a pleasant sensation or a neutral sensation, if our attention is relaxed and open, we can see the component parts moving, shifting, coming, going. This practice gives us an ability to find freedom, whatever is arising and passing away. We can connect to it. We can be aware of it. We can learn from it because we're not fighting against it or being lost in it. And when you're ready, you can conclude the meditation. This concludes today's lesson.
Okay, let's put this meditation in context. So, a couple of things that are happening here for particularly beginners or mid-level meditators is that one, you're nuancing your body scan. So when we first start our body scan, we just say draw your awareness to particular areas of your body, see what's happening there. Now we're asking you to go a little bit deeper and actually begin to see the changes going on in those body states, which is that beginner mind, again, at a little more subtle level. So beginner mind isn't simply a matter of, oh, I'm going to act like I'm starting over. A beginner mind is an actively curious mind. It's going, what else? What else? And it's not stopping at the initial perception. What else is happening here? And I like to compare it to watching the birds in the tree outside my window. When I first look at the tree, I may see one or two birds, but the longer I look, there'll be 20 birds in there. But my mind will have screened it out. The brain establishes the figure-ground relationships. And we know neurologically only about 40% of what you think you're seeing is actually coming through your optic nerve. The rest is coming from memory stores and is put on there like a matte painting. So we think we're seeing reality, but we're not. So stop, get curious, begin to open up, widen the lens, intensify the focus. The mind goes both ways. So we're going down on a deeper level. Now we're combining the teaching about how suffering emerges. And that's why this meditation is so fundamental. Because the brain, as things come in, establishes an aversion or an attraction. If it has an aversion to what's going on, it goes through one set of channels. If it has an attraction, it goes through another. So your brain's like a computer. And this is, computers are modeled on brain physiology. My son does artificial intelligence for Google, and we can sit and talk because we have the same instrument in front of us. So you can see, you can begin, the sooner you feel this aversion, the sooner you feel this striving, this leaning in, as we call it, either pulling back or leaning in, the quicker you can manage it, okay? By the time it goes to labeling it as undesirable, developing a storyline, projecting it into the future, getting into self-blame, and all the
Add-ons.
Add-ons. I like that phrase. One of Linnell's new phrases. All the add-ons that we put
Well,
onto
and
it.
Sharon Salzberg, yeah.
It's harder to disengage from it, if that makes any sense. So we're wanting to catch that leaning in, that pulling back as early as possible. One thing I'm learning from Sharon this go round is the importance of the neutral sensations and how quickly the neutral sensations the brain loses interest in.
And then the mind wanders.
Then
I
right,
noticed the very same thing.
begins to fill in the blanks. And this is where the conditioning comes in, the monkey mind. So the doorway to the monkey mind are these neutral sensations. Notice how when you let your mind lapse, when you're trying to go to sleep, when you're daydreaming, when you're waking up in the morning, that's when you're most vulnerable for your PTSD type thoughts or the things that you dread to take over. Not when there's a lot going on, but when there's very little to go on. That's what activates the default network in your brain. Now so we've got that going on. We're nuancing our awareness. Then we want to begin to see that pushing, pulling, and then when we begin to look closely, we begin to see change. So watch how you start with a word to label pain, like she said, but as you nuance that, you begin to see it's a tightness, it's a stabbing, burning, it's a constriction. It's a lot of other things that you lose when you simply label it with one word. So we have maybe 5 words for snow. The Eskimos have something like 17. Okay. Think of how many more changes and appropriate responses they have, understanding what kind of snow they're looking at and what its potential is for where they're going to head next. So as we begin, like as an athlete, as a long distance runner, when I was running a marathon, I would need to say, is this a pain that's creating an injury? Do I need to stop? I need to watch it to see if it's a temporary cramp and it's going to let go. I need to watch that process while I'm going through it. So then when we begin to see the process, she had that beautiful line, realize that we are looking at change. We are looking at a live system. Okay.
I love
And
that.
I love that phrase. We sit with notebook and pen, and when someone puts out a juicy phrase like that just lands heavy, we write it down, because these are the cues that she gives you in yoga come from things that really hit and become a doorway, as we've been talking about a doorway into that a fuller experience of our lives. So we see it as a live system. And then she said, it's not monolithic at all. It's something very living, something that's changing, not something to be fought about, a process to be engaged skillfully. Like when I'm running, is that pain a problem? Or is it something I need to skillfully relate to in order to avoid injuring myself? So, the more we're present, the more we're nuanced, the more we can make those adjustments. And that's what we mean by skillful. So this is, even though it's a seemingly repetition of things we've done before, there's a lot going on here. So what y'all got? Hey, Sherry.
And really, the title of your poetry book, it's all about impermanence.
Mhm.
It's all about impermanence. Every morning, the past 2 weeks, my son's car has been in the shop, so I've had to take him to work. So I head east to get to his house at just the perfect timing for the sunrise every morning. So it's, I drag myself out of bed and make myself go through this process every day. But then there's this gift of the sunrise, and what occurs to me is every morning I'm leaving at the same time, but the sun is different. It's shift by a few degrees every morning, and the sunrise also changes its timing just enough that it's noticeable to me when I'm leaving the house at the same time every day. It's impermanent. And driving into that beautiful sunrise and realizing, how can anything be the same if we're on this rock spinning through space at 10,000 miles an hour? How can anything stay the same? And we're just a microcosm of that macrocosm.
So impermanence begins to lose its negative association. We want the plot to move along in the book or movie that we're involved in. But yet when it comes to our life, we want to keep things the same. And Edgar Allan Poe wrote a wonderful short story about a scientist who had married the most beautiful woman in the world, except that she had an obvious birthmark on her face. And it just drove him crazy. So he's developing a concoction to remove that blemish. And when he gives it to her, and he notices that it's fading, and fading. When it finally fades, she's dead. And it's talking about this same thing. The more we try to control, the more we try to perfect, the more we're letting all the aliveness out of our experience. And what we end up with is dead. And we end up in a dark room, locked away from life, safe, but in a prison.
So enjoy that alive
Enjoy the change, ride the waves.
system. Yeah.
Change is hard.
No, resistance is hard. Change is a dance. Change is play. Change is freedom.
I'm on the precipice of big change. Tomorrow, 25 people are coming to my house to eat food and to celebrate my son, who is moving to Atlanta on
Ooh.
August 4th.
Wah.
And I've known about the move for several months now, almost a full year. But I've only been able to talk about it without literally getting, hysterical to the point where I can't go on with my day and I just have to go and lay in bed. I'm realizing what makes it okay for me is his joy.
Yeah.
My son is so happy.
Yeah.
He's in love. And his happiness is so more important to me than my comfort.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
And I don't want him to go. It's a big, big change for our family.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to accept it. Trying to not resist it.
Okay.
And I think I'm done. I think I'm done resisting it, but I'm not done being sad about it.
Oh.
And it's, I think about all the stuff that I'm going to miss. It's like, but you're in love and you're going to have this life and I'm going to miss it.
Yep.
I'm going to miss all of the in love shit that you guys are going to do, and your experiences. And it's going to happen over there. I'm not going to be a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
What a perfect illustration of finding the joy in impermanence that Bart was just talking about, finding the positives in impermanence, because our mind wants immediately to go to the negatives of impermanence. Wow.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing.
Khalil Gibran has a wonderful poem. He says,
I already know, Bart.
if,
I already know what you're going to say.
if you want love's ecstasy and you don't want its pain, then pass off love's threshing floor into that seasonless world. Hear the deadness, the seasonless world where you laugh but not all of your laughter and cry but not all of your tears. Okay, so So let your crying be for joy.
Mm.
Your crying is the love you have for your son, and not the absence. If he weren't there for you to love, you wouldn't feel the sadness. And the reason it can't let it, and this is the horrible thing about our kids growing up. I think empty nest is much harder to deal with than divorces or deaths, because you got to keep your heart open, because they're going to come back. You know, you can't just say, okay, carry your ass, and I'm shutting that door, and you can't ever come through it again. You got to leave it open, and you can't stay upset with him for going. So it it's a it's extremely painful, but we do it because we love them. The love will keep the door open. Yeah, good for you. And cry. I mean, shit. I'll tell you a story.
Oh, I'm gonna
Hey,
believe
I
that.
know you don't need my permission. I know. So my ex-wife, 2 weeks before Christmas, lets me know that she's taking my son to California. Just out of the blue. And so Christmas Eve, I'm getting ready to do
Like permanently? Or
yeah,
just-
permanently moving to California. And I'm sitting and doing the Christmas Eve service, and I look over, and a friend of mine's son is playing violin. He's screwing up horribly, and he's looking at his dad like, I hope you're still going to love me when this is all done. He's the same age as my son. And man, it hit me. And so there I'm in the middle of the Christmas Eve service, bawling like a baby. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't be joyful today because I'm grieving my son. I thought it was going to hit me tomorrow on Christmas Day, but I never had him on Christmas Day. I always had him on Christmas Eve. So my heart knew, my body knew, this is the time he's supposed to be in your life. And I felt that pain again. So, we need to be a culture that weeps openly. We have lost I want to get those black plastic wristbands. So when we're going through a significant grief, there's an obvious tell to people, don't expect me to be my normal self. Have someone going through grief right now says, I can't remember anything. My short-term memory's gone. Yeah, it'd be like that. Yeah. And I don't have any interest in doing things. Don't take joy in things. Yeah, exactly. Okay, don't ask me, what's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with me, but I'm offline. I'm unavailable. That makes sense. We have such a non.
We'd all be wearing black bands.
Exactly. That's
We're all grieving something.
Yes.
what telling us is, realize
Yeah.
the person in front of you is carrying pain you can't imagine. You can't imagine.
And
So-
that's, one of the things that Sharon Salzberg does so well in the practice of loving kindness is inviting us to, she uses the word stretch, to stretch your comfort zone, to include the people in the grocery store and the bank and anybody you come in contact with, to send that loving kindness out. I remember at the workshop where we had the gift of practicing with her live, and one of the first things she had us do is go outside. Go outside, walk the grounds, which wasn't a bad thing. We were in Maui. Walk the grounds, and anything or person or animal or bird or anything that crosses your path, can you mentally and viscerally send them your loving kindness? And that was the practice. Yeah.
And then we did that wonderful meditation um, where we sat and looked in a total stranger's eyes, and they would go through a litany of things where they would say, this person has lost someone dear to them too.
Right.
This person has known disappointment. This person has given into their fear, and you're just sitting there
Has
going,
known loss.
has all the things that I think are private and that are unique to me. No, well, that's what makes us alike, not what separates us.
If we have time, would you read that poem again? That was
Sure.
really, really beautiful.
I will. I'll try and post it maybe next time. Okay. Anybody else? Different tangent?
Several things came up for me. Thanks for this today, and for sharing, Tiffany. I had an experience yesterday. I went to the movie and I picked the seat up at the very top of the theater, and I go and I realize I'm the only one in this theater. And I'm up there in the very corner at the top, and it's the whole empty. And at first I wanted to go, I'm kind of relating it to my body. My first thing is, oh, my pain. It's like, oh my God, this is such a reflection of my loneliness. See, here it is again. I'm alone. And I kind of almost wanted to sink into kind of a despair, but immediately I thought, wow, I've got this whole place to myself. I can go walk around, I can put my feet up. I just shifted my perception of, wow, how wonderful. And today, like sitting and, you know, thinking of just like a pain in my body. And so if I have like a little twinge in my neck, and I like the idea that it's changing, that it's not permanent. But then when I tried to go to the other side of my body and see, well, what's it like there? And it's just like almost non-existent, that the pain gets so much attention. And so I really tried to go over just kind of the opposite side of my body and just be still and just kind of wait. Is there some kind of, what is it? But I think it's because peace and calmness and these things are a little bit more unfamiliar. And so it's really hard for me to even notice the sensations of no pain. And so if there's no pain, what is there? But as I kind of went through my whole body, and I thought, all the softness, I mean, I don't even, it's like it exists, but I don't have words or thoughts about it as much as I do like the pain. I can really have a large amount of dialogue about it, but the peace is so much more unfamiliar. So that was a lot of fun. And I'm curious what I've been doing a gratitude list. My son is in the throes of alcoholism, and I'm in Al-Anon, and that has there's a lot of pain in those rooms, and even for myself. But I've been doing a gratitude list, and I think it's really shifting. It's shifting me. And like today, even that willingness to hang out more instead of trying to change the pain or look at it as moving and describing it, well, let me go to the parts that are just waiting for me. And so anyway, it's going to be, I really like playing with these ideas and noticing these things, even though it's hard. So thank you.
But thank you. And you just took a risk saying that your son's going through the throes of alcoholism, and I'd like anybody else who'd be willing to take that risk, just apropos. Or how many of you have a child who's in the throes of an addictive disease? Okay.
Oui.
So you know, that's the stuff that we forget about each other, and that we tend to privatize our pain and not risk revealing, and then we can't get support. So thank you for taking that risk. Now, you said something that in the West, you're not going to find this in the Eastern traditions. My teacher, and Brad's and my teacher, was a Jungian analyst from India. And when he came here, he said the teachings in the East, we're designed to have people who have a very little ego. When you think about what your brain is designed to handle in terms of choices and in terms of stimulation, think of what people's life was like 500 years ago. You lived in a village of 100 people. You had no choice in your food. You had no choice in your occupation. You had very few choices in terms of who your spouse was going to be. Choice did not enter into the picture. So there wasn't, and you lived in harmony with the rhythms of nature. You didn't have air conditioning. You didn't have heating. You were at the mercy of floods wiping out your crops and stuff like that. He said, therefore, the desire to control was very small. He said, when I came to America, your egos are so thick. He said, they're almost impenetrable. And the biology behind that now is we have discovered that we are addicted to stress chemicals, that cortisol and adrenaline are addictive. Therefore, our brains gravitate to chaos. If we're given an opportunity, if someone opens the door and says, here's peace, it feels uncomfortable. It does not feel safe to be free. So you take an animal raised in a cage, open the cage in the forest and let them out. They'll go back in the cage. Okay? Because it's what's familiar. We don't see that in ourselves. We're very critical. And Eric Fromm wrote a book called Escape from Freedom. We are constantly running from freedom. Like Dale was saying, the door's open. The damn door's open. Why aren't you going outside? And that's why we need to watch our brains, the way it shuts the door automatically. Pain. Boy, that's a monolithic word. Pain. Avoid. Pain. Beep, beep. And when we go, not pain, aversion. What am I averse to? I'm averse to freedom. Oh, wow. I'm averse to intimacy. Yeah. I'm averse to joy.
I wonder if somehow we find peace, calm, the absence of chaos. Somehow we find that uninteresting and boring. So we don't know how to be with it. We know how to be with chaos and strife.
Yeah,
exactly. We know how to do that.
Yeah. So that's why I said about the neutral experiences, which potentially could be attractive and interesting, become uninteresting because we want the chaos. We want the strong response.
We want something to sing out.
Yeah. Something sexy. I want something that's going to grab me by the balls and drag me somewhere. So, simple peace doesn't do that. Very easy to get lost, dissociate.
It's like you said before, there is a withdrawal period when you try to start living your life without stress and cortisol. And there's a withdrawal period where the mutual experiences aren't going to be, we're not going to see the value in them for maybe a pretty long time.
Yeah. So realize that's why people used to go to monasteries. We go to monasteries because there was an order. You didn't have to think. You didn't have to make choices. You get up, you eat breakfast. You've got simple tasks to do. You do your meditation. It's all guided. All the decisions are made. And no one's going to criticize you if you're sitting crying in your meditation. Or if you're scared, you've got safety around you. So that's why this Sangha is so important. I don't know if it's that way for you, but it's my island of sanity and serenity in the middle of the chaos.
You've caused my mind to go on a tangent, reminding me that this need for chaos and all of that stuff is the reason why all the media's news departments are run by their entertainment people, because they want chaos. They want provocation. They don't want to report the news, because the news is all of those dull sensations that Sharon was talking about in your body, that, you know, they want the sharp sensations. They want the they want the chaos. They want
Catastrophize everything. Fear mongering, sensationalism, kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down, kick them when they're up, kick them all around. Don Henley. Bubble bleach pond with a gleam in her eye.
Thank you, Tommy. Boy, that is exactly right.
All
Media
righty.
really rules.
Yeah,
So
it's
be careful.
as David Letterman would say, it's infotainment.
Yeah.
It's infotainment.
Yeah. Be careful.
Well, almost out.
All
Own
right.
body.
Deep breath in.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Computer crash.
The grid's going down, y'all.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Power grid, internet. We're all gonna get isolated. Oh,
Thank you, Tiffany.
Guys, I gotta go make pasta for 25
Thank
people.
you. Have a great celebration, Tiffany.
fun.
I will.
Enjoy.
Guys.
Enjoy.
We're with you. We're gonna be here, baby. We're not leaving.
Okay.
Okay, there is some
Okay.
stability.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.